Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I'm going to play a little tune for you on this instrument I've got here. This very large, well, it's not a violin, it's a Tommy gun. Or is it a typewriter, a Chicago typewriter? Number of different variations of this particular gun. It's an iconic, classic gun. If you see one of these, you recognize it. Whether you're a gun guy or not, everybody knows what one of these is. Especially when it has the classic vent rib barrel, forward grip, the cuts compensator on the end of it. It's an icon. Is it a particularly practical weapon? Not really. There's a lot of things that probably do the job better, but nothing does the job as cool. Well, let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to clean this up, get rid of this violin case, and actually be able to go ahead and show you the details of this firearm. So I got the violin case put away, and I mentioned in the beginning of the intro that it's not a particularly practical gun. So you might figure, why do I have it? Because they're fun, because they're cool. This is one of those guns that if your budget allows it, and it definitely is a bit of a budget buster. This one MSRP is for about $2,600, and there's variations that start around $1,500 and go up from there depending on which features you want. But it's not an inexpensive gun. It's heavy. It weighs 13 pounds, this particular one, and that's before you start hanging 45 ACP off of the magazine well, which, by the way, these were designed to fire from an open bolt. So you can see it's unloaded because it's basically open to the air. This version is a semi-automatic because I'm not made of money. To get a fully automatic one of these, I imagine you'd pay over 100 grand at least. Plus you'd go through all the waiting periods. So this does fire from a closed bolt, but the gun was designed to fire from an open bolt. It was designed as a fully automatic weapon. The magazine releases here, and it pushes up, and it's not easy to operate with a grip. You're gonna pull up on it with one hand. You're gonna operate the mag with the other. It's a cumbersome gun to operate. There's a lot of things as you work through this gun not to like about it, but you still like it. You still want one, and they're still cool. So the magazine goes in. To put the drum in, there's a little plate you have to put up in here. To be able to operate the release at the top, you have to lock the bolt back, and then the drum slides in this way, and it slides across and locks in place. And you have to be careful not to push it in the wrong way because you can damage the flanges. This particular one works well with the drum, and the drums, as I showed the drum, they're kind of just a big round drum. They come in multiple sizes. They come in a 10 round size. They come in a 1 box size and a 2 box size. Yeah, you can get 100 rounds of 45 ACP hanging off of this thing if you want, on top of an already heavy gun. Therefore, you're going to want some sort of a forward grip. This one comes with the iconic finger groove grip that you hold on to. There is also a more military version of it that has the horizontal grip, a little more classic rifle looking. But of course, if you're going to get something like this and you've already decided you're going to have something impractical, you want the look. Some of this is just about how this thing looks and how it feels. When you actually use this grip, the gun actually sits in well. You've got to get a hold of the grip here, and then you've got the back grip, and the stock tucks into your shoulder. It's actually very easy to shoot this thing. With the sight on it, which is a pop-up military style sight, which is going to be very difficult to line the front and rear sights up for you. But it's kind of a peephole, and it's got kind of a peep slot there, and it's adjustable up and down, and then just a front blade. Not the best sights in the world, but actually they were quite easy to see. They're far enough apart, they're distinct enough, and it lines up with your eye. Unlike a pistol that's down the center line of your body, it's lined up with your eye. I was actually able to see the sights well on this, and well enough to actually shoot it quite well. The bolt to operate is operated by this ball at the top, and just notice it's got a slit through it, and that's to allow you to sight through the bolt. And the bolt is heavy. Cycling it is heavy, and this bolt does reciprocate, but if you're holding this thing properly, obviously you wouldn't want to hold it like this. You're not going to have anything up there. So your hands are going to be down here on the grips, and that's going to be cycling on the top, and it's not going to get in your way. When I was running this with the drum mags, it ran flawless. When I ran it with the stick mags, I had a bunch of trouble with it. And that is one of the characteristics of these, is they're temperamental. and you kind of have to tune and optimize and play with them a little bit. And I know I could send it back to Kahr and get them to tune it, but I'm going to tune it myself. One of the other things you'll run into is there's certain variations that can only run stick mags. If you get one of those variations, it's very difficult to convert it to a drum mag. So if you're wanting to have the drum mags, get the ones that come with the drum mag, get it already set up with the drum mag, and then in theory it should work reliably with the stick mag. But again, I may have to tune a little bit. I may have to tune the feed lips and where the magazine sits a little bit to get it to set properly. This is the 1927 A1. This is a T1B model. Now they've got a couple variations, as I mentioned. This one's got a 16.5 inch barrel, and with that permanently installed cuts compensator ends up being 18 inches. So as you see it here, this is legal to purchase for anybody that can own a rifle. There's nothing about this that gets into the NFA. They also have a 14-inch version of it that comes out to 16.5 with the permanently installed cuts compensator, and that's also not an NFA weapon, so it's a little bit shorter. I wanted the slightly longer one to, get that full look, get the vent rib barrel and everything. They've got an SBR version of this. It's got a 10.5 inch barrel. Now that falls under the NFA, so now you're doing paperwork and trusts and all that, and waiting months at a time to get your rifle. And there's also a pistol variant of it. Now one of the variations that this particular one has is, you see this button. There's a button on the stock. If I push the button, the stock comes off. And now you've got the heaviest, most cumbersome pistol you've ever handled in your entire life. Because it comes this way from the factory and I didn't modify it, it's still not an NFA weapon, and I can operate it without that stock on it as a pistol like this. Or I can put the stock back on it by just simply sliding it back into place. So this is the kind of the high-end version of it with all of the cool features, which when I purchased this, I was wanting it really because it's cool. I could go hunting with this. It would be an effective hunting weapon. I'm not going to. I've got much better weapons for that purpose. But nothing beats this for a range day. You've got a big heavy gun that's firing 45 ACP, which is kind of a heavy but slow cartridge, which doesn't recoil very badly even in a pistol. By the time you put it in this rifle, it feels like shooting a 22, but it's just a lot more fun. Very limited recoil, very little rise, especially with that cuts compensator. It stays right on the target, so you can just sit there and pull the trigger and you use the entire bullseye of the target and waste the rest of the target very easily with this thing. Now, I mentioned the drum magazine possible capabilities. The stick magazine comes in a 30, like this one right here, and it also comes in a 20, and there's a 10 round, kind of cuts off right about there. So that even if you're in one of the restricted states, as long as there's not some other scary feature of this thing that makes it illegal for you, you can actually have one of these, because you can have the 10 round drum, you can have the 10 round magazine, and be compliant with those draconian restrictions that some states have. From a maintenance perspective, and I'm actually not going to disassemble this on video because it's a whole process. You pop the stock off, there's a button on the back, you have to pull plates out, turn things up and down, springs want to fly, and everything's heavy and cumbersome. It's a very cumbersome to maintain gun. But once you get it apart, it's easy to clean. Everything just comes apart. Internally, the bolt comes off. It's a big, heavy block of steel for the bolt on this thing. You clean it and put it back together, and the same thing, you got to kind of hold everything just right. If there's enough interest in disassembly and reassembly of one of these things, I'll do a separate video on that, because that video alone could be a 10-15 minute video just getting this thing apart, getting it cleaned, and then getting it back together again. So if that interests you, comment. If I get enough interest in that, I'll go ahead and do that, but I don't want to make this video a half-hour video today. The trigger on this is actually pretty decent. It's a nice, reasonable travel. It is along the lines of a battle trigger, but a little bit lighter. It's actually turned out to be, surprisingly to me, quite a nice trigger. It has an odd safety. The safety rotates, and it's quite stiff. You can see there's a detent, almost not quite a detent, but it feels like there is. It kind of sticks and then fire. And of course, if this were the full Monty version, fire would be really fire. In this one, it's semi-automatic. So they're just cool. But from any kind of a practical usability, an AR style safety is very easy to operate with your thumb. But with this one, trying to get up here with your thumb, you have to push it down and then kind of rotate it around, and if it doesn't go in, you may have to bring your thumb down and give it one more push. Same thing, it's almost a two-step process to put the safety on. And it can be easy, as you see it slid out of my hand, it can be difficult to get a hold of it and flip it around. So there are a lot of things that are kind of cumbersome, and there's very few firearms that I would have that some of these cumbersome things, the cumbersome disassembly, the weird safety, the magazine sensitivity, would not make me go away from them. I didn't mention the length of this thing. So it's 41 inches long from the back of the stock to the end of the cuts compensator in this particular configuration. So you've got a 3.5 foot long gun. Pop the stock off it, it's 31.5 inches. So you're really close to 3 feet long gun. It's long. Not only is it heavy, it's long. There is an aluminum receiver version of this that is about 9.5 pounds. There's also a couple other variations. So let's say 2600 isn't enough money. You got more money to get rid of. You don't quite have the 100 plus that it might take to get a full auto, but you want to spend more than 26. They can take care of that for you. There's a couple different tiger stripe variations of it, where they have the, similar to what you see in the Desert Eagle, they have a gold tiger stripe where the base is gold and the stripes are black. Or, I'm sorry, silver. They have a silver tiger stripe and the base is silver and the stripes are black. But they've also got a gold variation where it's like a two-tone gold. And now you're up into the 4K territory. So it's really easy to spend money on these things. You can also get versions of it that come with the larger drum. You can get it with the violin case that I've got there, but it's easy enough to get that violin case aftermarket. The big thing to do if you're wanting one of these and you want to be able to run drums, you're better off just getting one that comes with a drum. That way you know it's configured, the magazine release and everything here is configured correctly to support the drum. Other than that, it's just how much money do you want to spend and what features do you want. They all function basically the same, whether it's the pistol variant or whether it's the SBR, or you've got the same magazine release, the same basic functionality. The only thing you may find different is this is walnut trim. You can also get them with the black polymer, and you can get them with the horizontal, either in the walnut or the black polymer for the grip, where it's more military style, as I mentioned earlier. So lots of variations, lots of way to spend your money. Whichever version you pick, whether you're looking for the aesthetics of it or whether you're wanting to just kind of keep the price down or have it be a little less cumbersome, you're going to enjoy it at the range. And everybody who sees it, who gets a chance to fire it, is going to enjoy it at the range. I've got a magazine with some snap caps in it. I'm going to see if I can get it to chamber these things. And if I can, I'll actually demonstrate the trigger. So I put the magazine in. I'm going to have to put it down to do this. I turn it over, and when I pull the bolt back, see, that's what it wants to do with snap caps. So what I'm going to do off camera, I'm going to get a snap cap in the chamber. Therefore, I will be able to actually show you the trigger. It's a little bit temperamental when it comes to the snap caps because they're so light and they're not really a true proper round. So I have it in fire, put my finger on the trigger. There's a little bit of take up, and then a really kind of an indistinct break. When the trigger breaks, there's really no way to know or feel a wall. It just, as you bring it back, it just breaks. And then it stops right there, so there's very little over travel. And it's actually quite light. It looks heavy, and it actually probably weighs a little heavier, but it's so smooth that it actually feels kind of light. I'm going to try to get another snap cap in there, show you again. That time it didn't pick one up, so I'll again off camera. I'll get a snap cap in it, and I'll show you the reset. Because what I'll do is I'll pull the trigger back, hold it, get a snap cap in it, and show you the reset. Okay, so I got a snap cap in it. I've pulled the trigger and I've reset it. So I'm all the way back, and I'm actually at a hard stop. There's the reset. It's not the shortest reset on the planet, but for a gun like this that was designed for the military, it's actually a pretty decent reset. And then just a hair of travel and it breaks again. And it breaks so smoothly. So it's got quite a nice trigger. And I wouldn't hold the snap cap thing against it. These aren't designed for snap caps, and even though these are high quality snap caps, they're still not quite right. They don't have the right weight. They're not as smooth. And the way the feed ramp works on this thing, I'm going to get the magazine out of it. Get rid of that snap cap. It's actually, if I pull the book back, just a big tunnel. You can see it right there. It's just a big open guide. So there's not really a true feed ramp. It's just a big tunnel that's milled into the receiver that leads up into the chamber. And the bullet just kind of rides up on that into the chamber. It's designed, really, since it was full auto, to be just moving and moving quickly and just cycling ammo through there, riding up the tunnel. So when you turn it around on its side, you put lighter things in it like snap caps and things like that. It's just, it gets temperamental, which is part of the reason why it can be magazine sensitive. If your thing for that type of design needs to work right. Whereas you take a classic rifle, most rifles feed straight into the chamber like an AR style, or they've got a defined feed ramp that the bullet kind of centers on and then rides up in, and doesn't have an opportunity to really get disconnected from the bolt, which is what I see seems to happen to this when it malfunctions, is the bullet gets separated from the bolt, turns a little bit sideways, and doesn't want to go into the chamber. So to kind of wrap up, a lot of times I'll talk about what would you use something for, what's it good for. This one doesn't have a practical purpose, quite honestly. It really doesn't. It was designed for the military, but even the military really didn't use it. So why would I want it? I want it because it's cool. It's one of those guns that's been on my list forever of a gun I wanted to have. It's iconic. It's fun to shoot. Yeah, it may be temperamental. I've got other guns like that that are kind of temperamental and iconic. And I got a little bit of oil on the stock, but you'll see it's a very nice walnut stock, and it does have a sling swivel on the back so that you could put a sling on it if you actually wanted to use it practically. That's not why I bought this, and honestly, that's not why most people will buy this. So I'm not going to be able to give you a list of practical uses for it, even though it's a firearm and anything a firearm can do, this can do. You're going to buy one of these because you want one of these for what it is, for the history, and just because it is what it is. You're not going to buy this because you actually have a good quality practical purpose to put it to. If you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up. I know it's a dirty thumb, but this has got some dirt in it. Check us out on Facebook, Patreon, Twitter, Instagram. We're kind of everywhere. Share the video and have a great day. Thank you.